How's it going, everybody? Chaotic Meatball here with Beastcoast Pokemon, and I'm happy to bring you guys a cool little Nuzlocke I put together specifically for this channel. In case you're curious, this is one half of a pair of videos, the other being Pokemon Sun using only Alolan forms over on my channel, so feel free to compare the runs and see which group of Pokemon is better. As for my selection here, I've subbed out the original encounters for the Kantonian forms of Raticate, Raichu, Muck, Persian, Dugtrio, Marowak, Golem, Sandslash, and Executor. Unfortunately no Ninetales since it's exclusive to Sun version, but 9 Pokemon with a relatively diverse pool of typings should put me in a good position. I'm going to try my best to put them on an equal playing field with their Alolan counterparts, and boy howdy, this game's got a lot of important fights to show that off. We've got 33 important fights to take care of. 4 on Melemele, 8 on Akala, 9 on Ula'ula, 2 in the Aether Paradise, 3 on Poni Island, and of course the 2 battles against Gladion and Hau before the Pokemon League, adding on 5 more fights on top of that. So, in the sake of keeping this as short as possible, and not taking too much out of your day, I'm going to be doing this video in a gauntlet style. No filler, all fights. But before we do, make sure to subscribe to Beastcoast Pokemon as we'll be resuming regular content in the new year, and comment down below how many Pokemon you think I'm going to lose throughout this run, since there's no way I'm getting away with a perfect run here. Starting off in Melemele Island, we've got 4 fights to go over, the first of which being Captain Alima over in Hau'oli City. I've already got 4 Pokemon available to me at this point, those being Rattata down in the Hau'oli outskirts, trained in attack and speed, Meowth in the trainer school, trained also in attack and speed, Grimer from Hau'oli City proper, trained in HP and special defense, and Pichu from Route 1 to be trained in special attack, but currently only speed. Anyway, Alima's got 2 Pokemon to test us before the first trial, the first of which being Yungoos. I lead off Pichu here, seeing as Charm can easily nullify this thing's threat in 3 turns, only taking a single tackle for 6 damage before swapping out for Rattata. It takes 4 damage from tackle before I go for focus energy, increasing my critical hit rate as another tackle comes out, but here comes the slaughter as a myriad of quick attacks and bite are enough to put this Yungoos down in 3 shots, leading to Smeargle. Now, Rattata is at a little over half HP, so I'm not really trusting the survival rate here, especially against a critical hit, so I swap for Grimer, taking a tackle for a bit over a 4th as my Quick Claw activates, letting me poison Smeargle with Poison Gas as another tackle lands, but I know that Alima's got a full heal, so I use it again, landing it and getting 1 Mud Slap in before Grimer's too weak to continue. This is a perfect opportunity to swap into Meowth, taking exactly half damage from a tackle as Fake Out picks up the KO and the win. Not too bad for my first win, and Fake Out does a lot of damage with a held Silk Scarf, jeez. As for the trial itself, Totem Raticate can hit like a truck, so I've thrown an Oranberry on both Pichu and Rattata in the attempt to stem the bleeding, keeping the Silk Scarf on Meowth and Quick Claw on Grimer. I start with Pichu here, using Charm immediately to ensure we don't get slaughtered, seeing a scary face come from it. This is fine, as I can keep Pichu in for another turn, seeing a quick attack that paralyzes the assistant Rattata off of static, and triggers my Oranberry before a second Charm connects with the Totem Raticate. I'm still at relatively high HP, but because Pichu's -1 defense due to a Tail Whip, I figured swapping here for Grimer was my best bet. Tail Whip and Focus Energy on the moves of choice on this turn, as next turn, Rattata's paralyzed and Raticate just uses another Tail Whip, so I go for Poison Gas, taking Raticate's Pecha Berry away. Next turn, the Quick Claw pops off, letting me hit a second Poison Gas on the Raticate, then swap out because that defense stat is starting to get awfully low on my only bulky Pokemon. I swap into Rattata to get some chip damage with Quick Attack, nailing 2 of them on Raticate before it's too risky to continue, swapping back for Grimer to tank a Bite and a Tail Whip. Raticate's about down, so I just go for Pound, finishing it off after a Bite lands, leaving just the assistant. Grimer's at 2/3 HP though, so this is a pretty easy scenario to take care of, swapping into Meowth to 2-shot it with Fake Out and Scratch to win the Normalium Z. I'm going to be abusing the heck out of these Z moves since they really do help give an edge in battle, but for now it's not too useful in the fight against Hau straight after. Right after the trial, I was able to pick up Diglett from the Verdant Cavern, training it a bit in attack before our first real rival fight. Of course, this is perfect for his lead Pikachu, hitting a Magnitude 7 with Diglett to one-shot and lead to his Poplio. So I swap here into Grimer for the most bulk, seeing a baby doll eyes and going for a poison gas to start whittling this thing away. Unfortunately, the first misses, but at least the move was boosted to 90% accuracy compared to other generations where it was unreliable altogether. The second lands, and I just start going for Mud Slap to inhibit his attacking abilities, taking a few weak water guns as I shift over to Pound, eventually picking up the KO after swapping into my newly evolved Pikachu and blasting out an Electro Ball. Speaking of which, this Pikachu is going to be an instrument of destruction against Hala. My team is mainly made of normal types, weak to Hala's main type of fighting of course, and Diglett's just not able to take an attack, leaving just Grimer and Pikachu as playable options. Thankfully, Pichu learns Nasty Plot at level 13, and upon evolution also gets Pikachu's level 13 move of Electro Ball, so I should be able to set up perfectly fine here. Mankey's out first, so I skip the pleasantries of Charm and go straight for Nasty Plot, seeing the focus energy that essentially makes Charm useless since it hits through with critical hits, and sure enough, next turn on the second Nasty Plot, he gets a critical with Karate Chop, though it does paralyze Mankey thanks to Static. I'm not sure if he has a full heal, so I just go into Electro Ball here at +4, and unfortunately he does. I could have gotten to +6 for free, outsped and KO'd next turn, but we should be fine from here as Electro Ball KOs. Makuhita's out second and it has Fake Out, but chooses not to use it as Electro Ball feints him immediately. Strange, but Carbrawler's out last, not going down to a +4 Electro Ball. Well, shoot, I guess I got the low roll since I calculated that damage roll and it normally KOs, but oh well. He just uses Leer, so that's not a problem as his second Electro Ball puts him away, winning me the fight in EMZ and clearing the first of 4 islands. Now, Akala's got a bigger population, holding 3 trials in the Grand Trial as well as a few rival fights and Team Skull admins, totaling into 8 fights, so let's get into them. The first I can gloss over rather quickly, as Dexio and Cena from X and Y make a little cameo, as this was the generation that Zygarde's other forms were introduced, battling me with a Delibird and Glaceon. Thankfully, upon finishing Melemele Island though, I was given the Tauros Charge Poke Ride, giving me access to the TM for Thief, as well as plenty of items like the Hard Stone from Roggenrolas, Metal Coat from Magnemite, and leftovers from Munchlax, meaning we've got consistent recovery, and the Pokemon Center right before this fight houses the TM for Protect, so I'll have easy access to double leftovers recovery turns as I do set up moves like Nasty Plot with Pikachu or Swords Dance later on with various Pokemon. This is exactly what I employ for Cena, using Delibird to set up on as it only has Present, alternating Nasty Plot and Protect 3 times before KOing Delibird with 1 Electro Ball and Glaceon with 2. Guess Glaceon's rather speedy, and especially bulky if a +6 Electro Ball didn't take it out, but alas, 1 route later and 0 required fights, and we're on to another battle with Hau. He's got a Normalium C on his Brionne though, so I've got to be a little bit more careful. Oh wait, he leads with a Pikachu with only Electro Ball and Quick Attack, so I can lead my own Pikachu, do the same alternating pattern of Nasty Plot and Protect that I used on Cena, and sweep with 1 Electro Ball apiece on Pikachu and Brionne, KOing both and taking the W. Even Gladion's not safe from this pattern, as his lead Zubat has basically no way of touching Pikachu effectively, so the same Nasty Plot Protect combo 3 times in a row, then an Electro Ball to KO Zubat, and 2 to KO Type Null, since boy howdy, this thing is bulky for this point in the game. This brings me up to the first totem Pokemon of Akala Island, that being Wishiwashi's schooling form. Now this is pretty easy to take care of with Grimer. I can simply use Poison Gas on the first turn before the assistant Wishiwashi comes down, and wear down the main one by alternating Protect and Sludge, taking his Citrus Berry rather quickly. By the time the totem Wishiwashi was down, Grimer is at full HP due to its sheer bulk and recovery, easily winning the fight with 2 Sludges on the assistant as the totem falls to residual poison damage. Not too bad at all, didn't even need the electric type for the water totem. Before I can head to the next totem though, I've got to deal with the Battle Royale tutorial, which can be a single Pokemon killer without a bulky one and without Protect, since you can easily get triple targeted and sniped right off the spot. Thankfully for me though, I've got Grimer to take care of that little problem known as survival, getting through and moving myself onto Whale Volcano Park for Yakiawe's trial. Beforehand, I managed to get a Cubone, rounding out the team to 6 members, and in fact, that Cubone's exactly what I use here, as it learns Bonemerang at level 21, giving me a multi-hit move that hits Salazzle for quad effective damage, KOing the totem in a single shot after taking a Flame Burst. Say, where's that Staples button when you need it, since I've got a hearty dose of that was easy with a side of Firium Z. There's nothing holding me back from jumping straight into the next trial, though I do have to go slightly out of the way to grab a Thunderstone for Raichu, but at least it's not part Psychic type, since boy howdy does Lurantis hit hard with X-Scissor. As for the main fight here, starting with Raichu and using Charm on Lurantis to ensure a good chunk of attack is depleted is good, but I completely forgot that the totem has +2 speed right off the bat, sending Raichu down to 8 HP with a Power Herb induced 1-turn Solar Blade. Well, I've got to swap now. It's going into Eradicate to try to land a Breakneck Blitz Z move, but upon swapping into a Screech, that's not happening at all. I see Solar Blade come down upon swapping into Grimer, which doesn't hit hard, but I've got to inflict Poison stat or else this battle is going to end the run. I do manage to hit it on Lurantis, missing Trumbeak, but that's actually ideal. I'd rather not see the second assistant cast form come down, since it has Sunny Day and makes Solar Blade that much more dangerous, making it a consistent one-turn move. Grimer's able to sit out here and hit Lurantis with a Mud Slap and Sludge before being forced to switch out due to the damage racking up, though seeing Lurantis go for Synthesis is always an unfortunate thing to see. Poison only helps so much when it's non-toxic. Also, very frustrating to always be using Protect on Solar Blade charging turns. Would love if I just wouldn't get hit by one of these, but alas, I've got to swap back out into Eradicate, taking a Solar Blade and Pluck that literally takes Eradicate down to 1 HP. But this is perfect. Now Lurantis sees a KO and won't go for Synthesis, so I can go for Protect, then swap into Meowth as the Poison picks up the KO. That just leaves Trumbeak, which takes about a 4th from Fake Out, swapping after using Protect into Cubone since it's got quite a bit of defense behind it. Taking a Pluck for barely anything as a few brutal swings are able to put the bird down, finishing off the totem fight. I about had a heart attack on Eradicate there, since I lost my Alolan Eradicate in my Sun run here, but being able to keep her around a bit longer certainly puts me in a better position. 2 more fights on the island and they're back to back. Plumeria is literally one screen before Olivia's fight, though she's definitely the simpler of the two. Giving Raichu a Person Berry before the fight makes it trivial, as I can set up a single nasty plot, take a Confuse Ray from Golbat, then zap both it and Salandit with 1 Electro Ball apiece to win the fight. No Protect stall needed. Last fight here on Akala is our grand trial against Olivia, and she's rather easy. Just like with Salazzle, Cubone's my pick as Bonemerang is a multi-hit move, effectively making Sturdy useless, which is on both her Nosepass and Boldore. Though it doesn't really matter much, as it still requires 2 uses of the move to take out Nosepass, as well as 2 on Boldore before getting to Lycanroc, at full HP no less. That's how ineffective those Rocky Boys were in the face of Cubone. Lycanroc can do a little bit more to Cubone though, as Bite does a bit of damage, but she's really not interested in using her Z move here as it's not very effective. Bonemerang almost one-shots, bringing Lycanroc into the deep red, giving me triple Leftovers recovery turns after taking a bite, as Protect fails on turns that your opponent uses a healing item, giving me another free turn to use Protect after a Super Potion, using Bonemerang one last time to grab the KO and the win. Probably should have given Nosepass more than just Rock Slide to hit ground types there, bud. You might have had a little bit more luck on this fight if you did. With her Pokemon manhandled though, I've got to take the detour to the Aether Paradise for a dumb encounter against Nihilego that I can run away from. I'm not sure why I can run away from such an important story fight, but I do make sure to put my newly evolved Dugtrio up front since I can't swap around my party once I get to Ula'ula Island, instead being forced immediately into another rival battle. He leads off once again with Raichu, so it would be dumb not to keep Dugtrio up front as Bulldoze one-shots it, leading into Brionne. We're 1000% seeing Hydro Vortex here, so I swap into Grimer to tank this thing hard. Surviving with over half HP to a Z move, that's kinda crazy. Double Leftovers recovery gets a bit of that damage off too, allowing me to just alternate Sludge and Protect before going for Poison Gas, since I am getting a little too low to survive a critical hit. Poison Gas does connect, so I just use Protect to get an extra turn out of it, and then swap into my newly evolved Persian to take a Bubble Beam, then follow up and take the KO with a Fake Out and Bite combo, leaving just Flareon. From experience, the only Pokemon I've got to take care of this thing's massive attack stat is Marowak, so I swap into a Fire Fang that misses, but the second lands and burns Marowak, having the power of Bone Meringue and making it not a one-shot. I'm able to survive a second though, so I just go for it and miss. Well, I can go for it for a third time here without going down to a critical, and it flinches. Great luck there, buddy. See you next time. I swap for Raticate, who takes over half from Fire Fang, so I just protect to waste a power point, then swap into Persian again, since I've got nothing else to outspeed. Thankfully, this doesn't burn, though taking 75% damage is pretty scary. Fake Out, Protect, and one final bite is able to finish off the evolution, giving me my first victory tier on the third island. Now there's 8 other fights to handle, half being Team Skull related and the other half being Trial related, so we'll be bouncing back and forth for a bit. I've got Melemele up next on Mount Hokalani before I can take on the next trial, so I just go in with Marowak, alternating Sword Stance and Protect on Skarmory, while some light Air Cutters and Metal Claws land like the light breeze in the morning, eventually letting Marowak get to +6 attack and KO with 2 Brick Breaks, since this bird gets sturdy for some reason. Guess it pays to be a Steel type, leading into Metang. I've got nothing to worry about coming from this organic mechanical brain monstrosity, but I just use Protect and land Bone Meringue next turn to KO after a light Bullet Punch, leaving just a Alolan Dugtrio. And while this thing does hit like a truck, Marowak's got pretty good defense, so I use Protect and see Mud Bomb. I'm immediately at ease, since why would you ever teach a Dugtrio a special move? That's just dumb. Anyway, I'm able to KO it with Bone Meringue, and then edge the team up to just before level 30 for the level cap, with the exception of Marowak, since it's going to be getting all of the EXP from this trial. Taking out a Grubbin and 2 Charjabug means I've got access to the totem Vikavolt, and this thing really can't do much to me when I've got Rock Tomb. First turn, I'm able to set up Sword Stance as Bug Bite lands for about a quarter, healing up about half of that from leftovers before going into Rock Tomb, doing a wee bit over half to Vikavolt to lower its speed. Not that it matters, since a Marowak was never outspeeding a Vikavolt, especially with a Charjabug sitting here using String Shot and saying, "Look, Daddy, I'm helping! See how good of a daughter I am," before witnessing the death of her father shortly before her own. Sorry there, sweet child, nothing personal. Plus, you get deleted once the save file's gone anyway, so you're probably feeling less pain getting crushed by rocks. Well, that sure was demented, but not as demented as Guzma's horrendous haircut. Seriously, is that hair, or did you just steal Brendan's hat from the Hoenn games? Anyway, he's back in the Mali Garden immediately after the trial concludes, so I just headed down there, threw Dugtrio into the front with the Rockney MZ, and went to battle. His first Pokemon, Golisopod, is a bit weird, as it has First Impression, a Bug-type priority move that can only be used on the first turn, sort of like Fake Out, as well as the ability Emergency Exit, which forces a switch out to the last member of your party once the HP of the Pokemon with said ability goes below half. So I can effectively force both with Dugtrio, using Protect against a potential First Impression, then outspeeding next turn and hitting a Continental Crush Z move for about 3/4, forcing in Ariados to the active. This can't do anything to Marowak, so I just swap and start alternating Protect and Sword Stance, doing the combo twice before KOing with Aerial Ace, leading back to the nearly dead Golisopod. Now, I'd love to have Marowak stick around and KO with Aerial Ace, but it's not outspeeding Golisopod, so I just use Protect to hedge against a First Impression, swapping into Raichu to take a Razor Shell and pick up the KO with an Electro Ball, winning the match. And this guy's saying the Island Challenge is stupid. At least I'm not going around a region and collecting gym badges that literally do nothing. At least these Z crystals do something. Anyway, next important fight requires us to take spooky pictures of some ghosts, leading to Totem Mimikyu. Now, I've got a couple pictures of some fresh ghosts if you want to buy them. Joking aside, this fight was a drag. It was literally just an exercise of improvising, simply because I could not for the life of me do enough damage to this thing with anything substantially to make an impact. Though Raichu does certainly put in a lot of work at the beginning, wasting its Lumberry thanks to static triggering off of a Play Rough, and taking out the disguise with the newly learned Volt Switch, allowing me to swap into Grimer and use Poison Gas to begin damaging Mimikyu. I'm not at all worried about Haunter, though getting it off the field and replacing it with Gengar will actually make my normal types much more effective, seeing as it only has Ghost moves and Hypnosis, a non-damaging move. I'm able to effectively make this plan work by bringing in Marowak to tank a critical Sucker Punch and a non-crit Play Rough on 14 HP, using Brutal Swing and KOing Haunter in one shot while also doing a bit of residual damage to Mimikyu. Protect buys me another turn of poison damage, and swapping into Persian gives me that last turn I need, protecting for one last attack and seeing Mimikyu go bye-bye to poison, leaving just Gengar to fall to a Shadow Claw. Thank goodness for TMs, otherwise this fight would have been much more difficult than anticipated. Volt Switch, Brutal Swing, and Shadow Claw were all integral to the strategy, earning me the Ghost EMZ. I'll just say it now, I was more stressed about this trial than I was with Lurantis, and Mimikyu's is such a hard Pokemon to out in Gen 7, especially because Disguise doesn't give it 1/8 damage like it does in Gen 8. However, that's the last regular trial of the island, as we've got a lot of Team Skull block stuff to take care of before the grand trial. First up, Plumeria is here in front of the Aether house for another battle, and still only has 2 Pokemon, so I use the same strategy as before, giving a Burst Berry to Raichu to set up a very nasty plot, but instead I see Poison Fang from Golbat do about half damage. Not a problem, I can just outspeed and KO with Electro Ball, leaving just Salazzle. Yeah, I'm not outspeeding that. Base 117 speed is going to leave me dead, so I hard swap into Marowak, taking a Toxic and a Flame Burst for decent damage, as a Boomerang lands for the KO and the win. Now I've got to chase after him because this dumb old young goose got kidnapped. Honestly, I would just leave it for dead, but you know, I'm going to make a couple preschoolers cry if I do that, so that leads to a second battle with Guzma. He's still got only 2 Pokemon, so I integrated the same strategy as the first fight, though I did speed up the process a bit with Dugtrio using the Z move on the first turn instead of using Protect, since he's always going to go for the super effective Razor Shell here. This activates Emergency Exit, swapping into Ariados, and this is where I changed the strategy, going into Raichu in the attempt to charge up some nasty plots, but wowee, Fell Stinger did more damage than I thought it would. So I swapped again, this time into my newly caught Golem from Route 12, as this is the first fight I'd consider it useful. Rock Slide's able to help Ariados find Death's Doorway, leaving just the near-dead Golisopod. Protect blocks the first impression, though it's just Razor Shell as expected, so I swap into Persian, take the Razor Shell for around 75% damage, then KO with a Fake Out and Slash combo, winning the fight. Probably should have added a member or 2 to the team before this fight, since this obviously wasn't working with just Golisopod and Ariados. Looking forward to the next fight, though. This just leaves Gladion, who's upset that the rest of Team Skull diverted us and kidnapped his sister. So we've got an angsty, angry teenager with a deadly squad of animals upon us. Great. He leads with Golbat, so I go with Dugtrio, immediately KOing with Continental Crush as Sneasel comes in second. Dugtrio once again outspeeds, grabbing another KO with Rock Slide, leaving just type Null. And now this is easily the perfect target for my newly evolved Muck, alternating between Poison Jab and Protect, allowing him to defer the poison damage from the first jab to rack up, getting the KO on the second use of Poison Jab and winning the match. Yeah, you should be apologizing, you weasel, now let's go be productive. And by productive, I mean don't rescue your sister, I'm grabbing the Dark DMZ from Nanu first. This is the first fight I find Sand Slash useful, as it was obtainable back in the Tapu Village and gets access to X-Scissor, and thanks to having just gotten the Bug EMZ, I have a great weakness for his team. Protect blocks Sableye Fake Out, allowing for a turn 2 Savage Spin Out that nearly KOs Sableye, though it's just not enough as Shadow Ball hits for around a third. Seeing a special defense drop really makes my heart drop too. A Hyper Potion comes down and eliminates the hard work put in by the Z move, allowing for a second Shadow Ball to pull Sand Slash down to 6 HP, though 3 X-Scissors is enough to put the Pokemon's most notable Jewel Thief down for good, leading into Krokorok. This thing has Earthquake, and that's pretty much all I need to say to scare you to death, especially when you've got a team consisting of Golem, Raichu, and Muck. So I swap into Marowak as my only option, taking around 40% from Earthquake and getting double leftovers recovery as I land a Brick Break through Swagger, that plus 2 definitely being enough to help me pick up the KO, leaving just a Lowland Persian. This bad girl's got the Dark NMZ, so I swapped into Muck and took the Fake out, and then used Protect next turn to take Black Hole Eclipse for next to no damage. It's literally healable off of 2 leftovers recovery turns, but I'm not even going to need that much, as 3 poison jabs alternating with Protect are enough to put the unlucky cat to rest, winning me the last fight of Ula'ula Island. Well, until the league, that is. Also, before we go, is it just me or is Nanu's lack of interest in doing the Z-moves dance but being really good at it very funny? Moving back over to the Aether Paradise, there's plenty of required filler fights like against Faba, but I'm mainly focused on Guzma and Lusamine. Fortunately, the former boosted his team up to 4 members, so I've got more to talk about. He leads off with Golisopod once again, so I use my play of using Protect with Dugtrio to eliminate the potential first impression, then use my Continental Crush Z move to trigger Emergency Exit, doing about 75% damage and forcing him out into Masquerain, where I just Protect and swap for Muck, since I don't really have a clean out to this thing. Gunk Shot is a fantastic move though, easily taking most of Masquerain's HP, but I figured I'd stall a bit with Poison Gas, using it and KOing after 2 turns of poison damage. This brings Golisopod back in, and fortunately for me, I can survive a Razor Shell, finishing it off with Gunk Shot and leaving half of his team. Ariados is out third, and there's not much to say here other than it's wasting its time with Sucker Punch, so I waste all 5 power points with Poison Gas, capping off with a Protect to get over half HP, and beginning Mud Slap accuracy deprivation. This takes a bit of time, but plenty of back and forth with Fell Stingers, Mud Slaps, and a whole lot of Protects and Leftovers recovery. I'm able to get this thing to -6 accuracy, swap for Raichu, then set up Nasty Plot a few times in order to KO both Ariados and Pinsir with 1 Electro Ball each, sealing the deal. A little harder than before, but barely above laughable. However, Lusamine's much more terrifying with her diverse team. Clefable is the lead here as I go with Dugtrio, forgetting to swap out for Muck before entering this fight. Not that it matters though, since Cosmic Power really shouldn't affect much. I'm going for accuracy deprivation here, since a clean sweep with Raichu is easily obtainable thanks to having Hidden Power Steel as a secondary option to Electro Ball, though she swaps for Miss Magius after seeing enough of my scheme. That's unfortunate since it has Levitate, and I can't try the same type of strategy, but Poison Gas stall with Protect and Poison Jab to pick up the KO faster seems to be working just fine, taking her down with 2 Poison Jabs and a bit of that Poison Gas damage. Her best option here is to go into Milotic, and if I can stall out her 5 power points for Hydro Pump, I should be absolutely fine. But she's a complete idiot, using Hydro Pump as I use Protect, then shifting to Safeguard as I use Mud Slap, then using a second Hydro Pump as I use another Protect. What a waste of power points, and she's only able to hit 1 out of her 5 here, which Muck managed to survive with the amount of recovery going on here, letting me stack up -6 accuracy, swap for Raichu, set up 3 Nasty Plots in the face of very weak Flails, then sweep with Electro Ball, one-shotting Milotic, Lilligant with Gigavolt Havoc since it resists electric moves, Beware, then finishing off Clefable with Hidden Power Steel, winning the fight. Pretty sick performance if I do say so myself. We'll be following up with them in Ultra Space later, but for now we've got 2 fights on Poni Island, those being the Grand Trial, which is for some reason before the Final Trial, but I guess dragons are the be-all end-all in Pokemon. After capturing myself an Executor on Executor Island, we're clear to fight Hapu, but one dumb thing to point out, the level cap for Hapu is level 48, but the level cap for Totem Komao is level 45, and that comes after. So we're gonna have to use half of my team for Hapu and half of them for the 4 required fights before Komao. We start off with a Dugtrio mirror match here, with the Cantonian one proving superiority and higher speed, KOing with a single Earthquake and leading into Gastrodon. I immediately swap here into Eradicate because Dugtrio can't survive anything here, but she also swaps into Flygon? Why is she swapping immediately? She should have just gone into it into the first place. But this actually makes my Confide setup easier. I can technically sweep with Raichu's Grass Knot, I just have to eliminate the threat of these special ground moves. Confide lowers the special attack of my opponent by 1 stage after use, and by using Eradicate and later Persian to bring Flygon to -6 special attack, I'm able to safely bring in Raichu on Dragon Breath no less, so I don't have to risk a critical hit, setting up 3 Nasty Plots and taking out Flygon with Grass Knot, Mudsdale with Bloom Doom since this is the bulkiest horse you'll ever see, and Gastrodon with a... Wow, the developers are the stupidest people I've ever seen. They made it so your cursor defaults on the top move instead of over the move you last used with a Z move. Since I'm mashing A, I've basically already won at this point, so why should I use my brain? But the game defaults me over Electro Ball, which obviously does nothing to a ground type, taking a Mud Bomb that Raichu lives on 7 HP before I cautiously move my cursor back onto Grass Knot for the KO. Seriously, why would you program it like that? It makes no sense whatsoever, and I'm very much happy I did not get completely screwed over by the stupidest oversight in programming history. Frustration aside though, Como-O really requires no strategy. I'm able to walk right through the trial with Executor, one-shotting both Jangmo-O and Hakamo-O with one Psychic each, leaving just the Totem Dragon himself. He's got Protect though, making my turn 1 Shattered Psyche Z move nearly worthless, but that's fine as I can follow up with Psychic to KO. However, it's a range and I miss the range by literally 1 HP. Executor's too low HP to continue at this point, so I swap into my bulky Muck, taking 2 Clanging Scales before KOing with Poison Jab, leaving the assistant to fall shortly after. Well, that went off the rails, thankfully not too far off as to not recover. This finishes all of the battles on Poni Island, as it's time to hop over to the Ultra Space for one last battle against Lusamine. She's got the same team as before, however now she has Totem-esque stat boosts. This kind of costs her though, as Clefable only has a boost in special defense, effectively making Raichu the best choice for a sweep. This sweep is rather lengthy to set up though, but by using Executor and its ability to learn both screens as well as Confide, I can do 2 rotations of Light Screen, Reflect in case Metronome rolls anything physical that could in any way harm Executor, then 3 Confides, which is when Light Screen ends. So I set up both again, finishing the last 3 Confides, setting up these screens for the third and final time afterwards. This gives Raichu all the defense it needs to swap in and set up 3 nasty plots. Sadly for me though, Clefable's already got a few Cosmic Powers set up as well as rolling a double team thanks to Metronome, so it's a bit of work to nail it down since I also have to work through Moonlight giving her consistent healing. But eventually I'm able to pull her down with a Hidden Power Steel and 2 Electro Balls, allowing the sweep to commence. Lilligant falls to HP Steel, helps that Grass doesn't resist Steel even though I think it should. Milotic falls to Electro Ball, as does Beware, leaving just Miss Magius. Sadly, this has a boost in speed as her Totem-esque boost, so I'm forced to swap into Persian to ensure this thing cannot touch me, but I've got basically nothing to touch it with. Muck, however, makes a triumphant return to once again clean up this witch, this time taking advantage of the newly learned Toxic, a TM from the Aether Paradise, to consistently deal out damage and eventually take the KO through tons of Protects and Poison Jabs. I'd love to elaborate, but you do not need a turn-by-turn play from me. It's as simple as Miss Magius cannot output enough damage to outpace leftovers and protect recovery faster than toxic damage stacking, giving me the victory and letting Lily's family do whatever. I've got a Pokemon League to win, so I do not care. Well, then again, I'm not quite done with her family, though, as Gladian is standing in the way between me and the shortest victory road in the series, starting off with a Crobat that I know Sandslash has a great fighting chance against. I fire off Rock Slide after taking Acrobatics, taking a bit of damage from it, but Rock Slide is able to 2-shot it after some recovery, getting me to about half HP as Silvally takes the field. Since it's Fire type, I've got a good advantage thanks to Dig, effectively giving me an extra turn of Leftovers recovery since it's a 2-turn move, KOing in 2 Digs after taking 2 multi-attacks, leaving to Weavile. Now I'd love to stay in and just KO with Rock Slide here, but Weavile's just too fast and hits too hard, so I use Protect to get a wee bit more recovery before swapping into Muck. Toxic Stall should work perfectly fine here, and it sure does, hopping back and forth between that and Protect, with the occasional Mud Slap thrown in for good measure. On the second to last turn of Toxic Poison though, I swap for Persian in order to KO with Fake Out, leaving just Lucario. Probably not my finest idea, as I just use Protect and hop over to Executor to take an Aura Sphere. His Corkscrew Crash Z move comes out on Executor, but fortunately it doesn't do too much as I had chosen Protect for the turn, hopping over to Reflect next turn and spamming Psychic and Protect to take this bad boy down into attacks, giving me my second to last win before the league. After a trainerless victory road, I've got How to take care of, and he's honestly easier to beat than Gladion, as he's still rocking the Alolan Raichu lead, a free KO for Dugtrio to pull off with Earthquake, leading to Kamala. I figured he'd go for Primarina here, but that's fine as I can just use Tectonic Rage here to annihilate this thing, which now leads into Primarina. Hydro Vortex is 1000% coming out here, so swapping for Executor to soak up the damage is perfect, though it still manages to do half. Scary stuff, especially when a Moonblast pulls it down to 27 HP as I set up Light Screen, but that's just a perfect opportunity to swap out into Muck, using Toxic and taking a myriad of Moonblast and Sparkling Arias for rather pitiful damage. Poison Jab's able to heavily accelerate the process here, as a single use means that Toxic KOs on the same turn, leaving just Flareon. I'm still in perfect shape to deliver a Toxic, so I do so as Baby Doll Eyes connects. I'm not sure why he has 2 moves to lower the physical attack stat, but I'm not complaining. This just makes this thing even easier to take down. Add on Flare Blitz recoil damage, I'm able to put this thing down for good with poison damage, a Mud Slap, and a Poison Jab, leaving him in the dust. Sorry, Hal, you'll have to try challenging the league later, as I have a date with Destiny. I've got a great team set up for this league, so after edging up to near level 56, it's time for the last 5 trainers of the game. I decide to lead off with Olivia here, as I have the easiest matchup against her, and I can't help but say that this was just click buttons turbo. I was swapping, setting up screens, trying to set up my own suite with Executor's Hypnosis and swapping in Raichu, but it was always derailed by an early awakening from Relicanth. Eventually, I was able to get to a position where Raichu got up a single nasty plot, then I said screw it, KOing the Relicanth with a Thunderbolt as Probopass took the field. This is Olivia's only Pokemon with a Ground-type move, and it has Sturdy, so there's no point in sticking around, which is exactly why I taught Raichu Volt Switch, breaking the Sturdy and going into Executor on a Sandstorm. Well, I would have stayed in if I had known Sandstorm was going to be the play, but now I am expecting a Thunder Wave towards Executor, and I've got just the plan. Persian has the ability Limber, preventing it from paralysis, so I pivot over, but she also swaps, this time into Golem. This is perfect for me since this is the only other Pokemon she has with Sturdy. I use Fake Out, then Protect to see what move she'd use next. I see Thunder Punch, once again the perfect move, so I can use U-Turn to get out into Dugtrio, using the immunity to my advantage and nailing a quad-effective Earthquake for the KO. I'd love to say that the rest of this fight was a sweep, but Olivia's got a Carbink, which is massively defensive, and I'm not going to risk Dugtrio getting KO'd by a Carbink of all things, so I swap into Muck for Toxic Shenanigans once again. Sadly for me though, she's able to outpace the damage output from Muck, mostly because she had not 1, but 2 full restores to get rid of Toxic, so I swapped out on the second into Executor. Since I figured if I set up Light Screen and Hypnosis, I'd give Raichu the perfect shield to set up Nasty Plot, and that was exactly what I managed to do, getting off 3 of them and KOing Carbink, Probopass, and Lycanroc all with a single Thunderbolt apiece, winning the match. God, that took way too long. Look at the footage that fight took. 15 minutes of real time on 1.5 times speed. Hopefully, none of the other fights are like that, and as soon as I say that, I head into Ace Rolla's room where another 15-minute fight awaits. I wanted to attempt a Dugtrio Shadow Claw sweep here, but upon seeing that my Z move doesn't even KO Sableye from full, I knew that this was a mistake. So I swapped strategies, surviving a Shadow Ball and hitting 2 Earthquakes after a full restore to KO and lead into Frostlass. I have no good outs to Ice types, so you know what time it is, baby, and it's Toxic Stall time, but not just any Toxic Stall, we've got to do it through Confusion. It's actually not too bad, though she does use a single full restore before letting it go and letting it just get KO'd. Seriously, I hate full restores when I'm trying to Toxic Stall, just let it die. At least a Palisand, though, and I'm gonna say I'm a complete moron. I swapped for Persian, being like, oh, I'm immune to the Z move, that'll help, then immediately went for the normal type Fake Out. God. Stupid plays notwithstanding, I basically had to use Muck as a pivot to lure out Earth Power for Executor, going back into Muck to bait the never-ending Nightmare Z move, taking half damage from it. That's quite the chunk, but that'll certainly make my life easier later on. Before swapping though, I managed to land a Toxic, surviving an Earth Power on 9 HP as Executor gets brought in next turn, taking a light Earth Power and using Protect and Energy Ball to outlast Palisand. 2 more Pokemon remained, those being Dhelmise and Drifblim, though she goes for the former. I have a hilarious loop I can perform here, as Dhelmise consistently uses Shadow Ball on anything not named Persian, so I can swap into Persian, take no damage, then use Protect and U-turn to get some damage off, while also healing Persian back from the brink with leftovers. After about 5 rounds of this, Dhelmise is down to about 35% HP, so I figured Play Rough should finish it from this position. It does not, though the resulting energy ball doesn't do nearly enough, and since she doesn't have another full restore, I'm able to throw one more of Play Rough out there for the KO, leaving just Drifblim. Sorry to say for her, but she's already lost. Drifblim has no attacking moves other than Ominous Wind, so keeping Persian out here and just hitting Play Rough after another, it's just a squash here. I'm eventually able to KO, win the match, take the aftermath damage without a care in the world as well. Third member here is Kahili, and she's definitely the shortest of the fights. I'm able to start with Persian, using Fake Out to break Skarmory Sturdy, swap into Executor to set up Reflect, then swap into Raichu to set up 3 Nasty Plots and sweep with Thunderbolt, one-shotting Skarmory, Oricorio, Crobat after getting outsped and hit with Poison Fang, Mandibuzz, and Toucannon, finishing the fight in short order. I deserved an easy win after those last 2 fights, goddammit, and the amount of buttons I had to click just to finish them off. Last up is Hala, and he's probably the perfect balance in terms of a Pokemon Elite Four fight, taking around 7 minutes to complete and not being too terribly hard. Once again, I'm leading Persian, seeing Hariyama and using Fake Out and U-turn for quite a chunk of damage, swapping for Executor to take the KO with Psychic after taking a close combat. This eliminates his only knockoff user, so I'm freely able to stay in here on Crabominable, using Protect for recovery and getting a one-shot with an unboosted Psychic. Not too bad, guess it pays to have a Psychic-type special attacker against a fighting user. Primeape's out third, and while it may outspeed and hit an Outrage for less than half, it just allows me to hit another Psychic to grab the 3rd KO in a row with Executor, leading to Beware. This Bulk-a-Bear workshop's definitely not smart to sit in on though, so I swapped for Muck, and it's time to do the dance once again. This time, he only has moves of Hammer Arm and Brutal Swing, which do quite a bit of damage, and throwing out a Toxic and just sitting out there absorbing a ton of these attacks with Muck's bulk, it's relatively perfect. I'm kind of surprised. I throw out the occasional light Poison Jab to speed up the process, of course, but I'm able to outpace him, even through a full restore, going for a Toxic on the turn he full restores, because I know how these fights go already, and I'm just trying to get the clock to move a little faster. On the second go around, he does go down, but Muck's not in the best of shape as Poliwrath comes in. So I swap back for Executor, swapping back and forth between Protect and Psychic a few times, since it's not quite a one-shot, but I've got plenty enough power points to outlast, and KO within a few turns' time. With that, I've officially become Alolan's first ever champion, but I've got a challenger to the throne immediately. Kukui's last in line, and we're going to go into this fight deathless, and I'm going to play to win that way. Normally I'd just start sacking Mons and making this fight easier for myself, but I think I would be doing a disservice to the rest of the run if I did that. We start out strong as my lead Dugtrio is able to KO his lead Lycanroc Day form with Earthquake, with Ninetales following up and immediately going down to the Continental Crush Z move. I did some calcs here, and whilst Rock Slide couldn't KO Ninetales, Stone Edge could, but at the cost of 80% accuracy. I'd rather assure the KO with 100% accuracy and lose my Z move in the process. Makes sense, gotta have consistency at Nuzlocke. No problem though, as third out is Braviary, a perfect target for Golem to make his first appearance in the league. Since I replaced my Rock-type move with Sandstorm, I wasn't really thinking, and I thought it would be nice to have that extra special defense, but, you know, I'm just being dumb at this point. It kind of doesn't matter though, since Gyro Ball does quite a bit of damage to it, pretty close to finishing it with a 2-shot before being whisked away with Whirlwind, Muck taking its place. Of course, he's smart to my strategy, swapping for Magnezone as I go for Toxic, but this is actually perfect, as now I can effectively set up Confide and lower his special attack. Albeit I have to do it through Paralysis, which is really annoying, but I am able to safely get through 5 of them before Muck's forced to be swapped out with low HP into Raichu. I think I can effectively finish this fight off from here, as 2 nasty plots later, I'm able to grab the KO on Magnezone with 2 Thunderbolts, since Sturdy is an annoying ability, leading to Snorlax. Now, I'd love to sit here and tell you I one-shot with Thunderbolt, but I miscounted how many nasty plots I used against Magnezone. If I had used the third, I would have KO'd, but instead I put him into the red as high horsepower nearly KOs Raichu. Thankfully, I'm able to fight another day, though again I'm a complete idiot and used Protect on his full restore turn. I could have KO'd if I just used Thunderbolt again, regardless of a heal or not, as I could have hit the second for free through a full restore, but instead I used Volt Switch to swap into Executor and begin some stall tactics. I figured if I can wear this thing down with Psychic, I can get it off the field, and that sure does happen after 3 Psychics along with a few Reflects and Protects, but that just forces back in Braviary. Now again, I'd love to sit here and use Psychic to finish it off, but a full restore is 100% coming, so I used the turn to effectively swap into Golem for free, using Gyro Ball for around a third as a second hits the oncoming Incineroar. Thankfully, I have Earthquake. I land it and bring him into the red instead of finishing it off. KOing next turn as a second Cross Chop hits Golem down to 11 HP. Almost done. Just 1 more Pokemon left to deal with, and we're out of this run deathless. But my only 2 fully healed Pokemon are Persian and Dugtrio. The latter will not survive a single Brave Bird due to being really brittle, so I swap into Persian, taking a Brave Bird on 20% HP, then using Fake Out to get some added damage before attempting the KO with Play Rough. And it just doesn't do enough. Braviary gets the chance to use one last Brave Bird, dragging my Persian down into the grave as the last Pokemon of the run falls on the same turn to its own recoil. Boy howdy, was that disappointing, but for my first attempt, I don't think I can be disappointed. That was a hell of a finish for a run, and I'm looking forward to attempting more Gen 7 runs in the future. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe to Beastcoast Pokemon, and let me know in the comments what Pokemon Challenge content creators that you'd like to see me work with in the future for similar duos of videos like this. And again, if you have not checked out the Pokemon Sun with only Alolan Nuzlocke, that should also be in the description. Anyway, I've been Chaotic Meatball, and I'll see you guys next time.